Hey, Jenny Kassan here, as usual, to lay down the law about how you can raise money for your business and do it on your own terms and do it in ways that allow you to stay in control and not be forced to grow your company at any cost, push for a sale. You can stay in control and stay as the owner and manager of your company for as long as you want and still raise money. So this week, what I want to talk about is special considerations that come up when the investors that you're talking to are not professional investors. They're not people who have been spending a lot of time investing in small businesses or startups. You know, maybe they have investments, but they've only invested in kind of mutual funds on the stock market. So they're very new to this idea that they can actually invest in a small business. And I highly encourage you to reach out to that type of an investor. In my experience, those are the best investors because they have such an open mind about what makes sense in terms of investment. Also, it's their own money that they're making decisions about. They're not answering to some, they're not controlling other people's money and deciding how to invest other people's money. They're investing their own money. So they may need to check with their spouse, but generally speaking, they can make decisions about their own money. And they have a lot of things that they think about when they're making investment decisions. So the more you can kind of put yourself in those shoes of that type of investor before talking to them, the better. And that's not too hard because you may have a similar experience where you, maybe you've only ever before invested in your retirement fund at work. So just imagine what that's like. So a lot of the people you're talking to probably don't know anything about the venture capital model. They've never been to like an angel event. They've never been to a pitch fest, which is good because you want them listening to you with a very open mind about, what you're offering them. So I'm going to share 3 quick tips on what to do when you're talking to that type of an investor. So number 1, don't approach the investor where you're kind of apologizing for the fact that what you're offering is different from what you would be offering to a venture capital style investor. I've noticed a lot of my clients naturally think that they need to kind of apologize or explain why what they're offering is different and, kind of make excuses for that. But just remember, these people, they don't have preconceived ideas about right and wrong ways of investing. They might not even know anything about venture capital investing. So what I've heard some of my clients say when they were practicing what they were going to say, they would say something like, yeah, so, this investment is a little bit different. I mean, you're not going to, get super rich like when I sell to Facebook, but, this is, another kind of investment and, it's different from what you might be familiar with, but let me explain it to you, something like that. And you really don't need to do that. Just go in with the confidence that what you're offering is valid in and of itself. It doesn't need to be compared to anything else. So what if it's not like something else? It in and of itself is a valid offering. If you've taken the time to structure the offering in a way where your investor has a decent chance of getting paid, that's awesome. You don't need to compare it to anything else. Number 2 is really avoid any jargon. There's so much jargon in fundraising, like you'll hear people say seed round or A round or friends and family round, deck, even the word deck, a lot of people don't know what that means. So just really keep it simple. Like you're talking to a, 5th grader about, so what happens is you give me money. And, as my company becomes more profitable, we start to pay out dividends, which is a share of our profits. Keep it that simple. If you do use a word that they may not know, like dividends, you can just explain what it is. it's going to make them feel so much more comfortable if you don't use any jargon. There's no need to throw in jargon. Just explain it just as you would to someone who's never before thought about this kind of investing before, because they probably haven't. Number 3, if they have fears about the risk, like sometimes you will, there's this idea out there that, oh my God, small business investing, that's so risky, be prepared to talk about that. And one thing you can talk about is this whole idea of diversification. And this is such an important concept because, most people who are not professional investors, if they have investments, it's almost all going to be invested in the public markets, on Wall Street. And that's scary because if Wall Street crashes, all their investments could be lost or could go way down. And so it's not that what you're offering them is necessarily more risky than what Wall Street has to offer. Wall Street investing is also very risky. There's no investment other than an FDIC insured bank account that is not risky. So what you can just talk to them about is this is a different kind of risk, because you know me and you know my business and you know my passion and my commitment to what I'm doing, that mitigates the risk in a way that you cannot say about Wall Street. I mean, the money you put into a mutual fund on Wall Street, you have no idea, what factors are going to contribute to that money, the stock you invested in increasing in value or decreasing in value. But when you invest in someone directly in a business that you love and care about, it's not that it's not risky, but it's such a different kind of risk. And it's a great way to mitigate risk by diversifying what you're invested in. So if the stock market does really badly, maybe my business will be okay because I'm not, my business depends on a totally different set of factors that Wall Street is totally unrelated to. So those are 3 tips for talking to people who don't have experience with direct investing in small business. And I actually have a whole, I wrote a blog post. It's been like a while, I think 3 years since I wrote it, but I think it's still really good, that gives you a lot of FAQs of what investors might ask you when they're not sophisticated, professional, experienced investors, and answers that you can give them. So I'm going to put the link to that in the comment section below if you want to do a little more thinking about how to prepare for questions that might come up when you're talking to investors who aren't professional, experienced investors, which, by the way, as I've said many times, are the kinds of investors I highly recommend you talking to. In my experience, those are the best investors you can possibly have because they're open-minded, they're investing their own money, so they're not being pressured to achieve certain goals that might not be consistent with what your business is all about. So that's all I wanted to share today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you next week.